Good morning. Welcome to the third and final day of DataWorks 2022. We're excited to be here for another jam-packed day filled with breakout talks, mini tutorials, a featured panel, and of course our opening keynote. Before I turn things over to Bram for some opening remarks, I have a couple of reminders and a few thank yous. So first, I want to mention that the DataWorks team strives to make all the information presented at this workshop as accessible and useful to the community as possible. So if you're looking for any of the materials from Wednesdays and Thursdays talks, they're on our DataWorks website under full agenda for download. So check that out. We are also, as you see in the back, we have Spark Street recording sessions in this room. We're also recording the sessions, many of the sessions in the other rooms. So once they're processed, they will also be posted on the website, and we'll let you know when those are available. So second, I would be remiss if I did not take this opportunity to thank all of the people who helped make DataWorks happen this year. So many folks contributed to making this workshop a success and curating such an incredible lineup of speakers that you've heard. I don't have time to thank all of them individually right now, of course, but I did want to give a special shout out to Rebecca Medlin, who I know is watching in Zoom land from Colorado. Hey, Rebecca. She has truly been my co-lead in planning this workshop for the better part of a year now. And it would not have happened without her ideas and leadership. So thank you, Rebecca, and I hope you can be here in person next year. Finally, I have to acknowledge the incredible effort of IDA's staff to put on this event here in our brand new building. From all the security and front desk personnel making check-in go so smoothly, to the facilities folks who have made this space so beautiful and functional and done all the set changes with the furniture, to our enterprise IT and conference technical support. You guys are amazing, setting up all the technology, fixing anything on a minute's notice, and everything. And our corporate communications group, of course, for facilitating all of these recordings, bringing in Spark Street, photography, podcasting, graphics, slides, podcast, you name it. So it's truly been a team effort. So at this point, I want to introduce our opening remarks speaker, Dr. Bram Lillard. Dr. Bram Lillard. He is the director of the Operational Evaluation Division at the Institute for Defense Analyses, where he provides strategic leadership, project oversight, and direction for the division's research program. He has a long history of providing outstanding data-driven analyses to IDA's sponsors. Prior to his current role, he led IDA's analytical support to the Cost Assessment and Program Evaluation Office in the Pentagon, and has also served as the acting science advisor to the Director of Operational Test and Evaluation. So, Bram, over to you.
Morning, everybody. I'm very pleased to welcome you to the third and final day of DataWorks. Before I introduce our keynote speaker, who I'm very pleased to introduce to you all, I wanted to take a quick trip down memory lane. I promise I won't talk for very long. But just for those of you who maybe are new to DataWorks, this is our 7th year of doing this, and we didn't always used to call it DataWorks. So the first year we did this was in 2016, and we called it a Knowledge Exchange Workshop. And I know Laura is laughing. I do want to give a shout out to her and to Laura Freeman, who was at IDA at the time, and Pete Parker, who I don't see right now. There he is in the back. This was really their brainchild many years ago, and then also in support of the idea was the Director of Operational Test and Evaluation at the time, Dr. Mike Gilmore. And this was, the community of applying more rigorous statistical methods to T&E was really, a growing phenomenon at that time. I would say it's somewhat of a revolution as we, as particularly in the Department of Defense, really had a rebirth or a growing application of those rigorous methods. And this became sort of a focal point for applying those methods and really upping our game and improving how we do design of experiments, how we do more robust data analysis for weapon system evaluation. The feedback from that first year, back in 2016, was really excellent. We had about 150 attendees, and most people said this was the first time that had really brought everybody together and created a community of practice. A year later, we changed the name. We called it the Science of Test Workshop. which I think embodied the idea that there really is a science to what we do, right? It's not just a bunch of random methodologies, but there is a scientific method in how we do test and evaluation, both in the aerospace and defense communities. And then in 2018, we actually did name it the Defense and Aerospace Test and Analysis Workshop, or what we now know today as DataWorks, and on purpose, because we have really grown in our sort of data understanding and our focus on that, as we heard yesterday from our two keynote speakers. This has grown in size. We're about twice the size now than we were the first year. And it, many of you might not know this, but it actually subsumed what used to be called the Army Conference on Applied Statistics. And so we've sort of consolidated in that respect. The scope and focus of DataWorks has actually evolved over the years. It started with just a focus on T&E and applying statistical methods, but now, of course, we have grown to DataWorks and really having a focus on making data-driven decisions and evaluations. We've had new themes that have emerged, including a focus on data management. I think that's a term that maybe 6 or 7, 8 years ago, none of us were really saying, but now I think we all have a strong understanding of the importance of having good, strong data management, as well as having a data-centric organization. I know that IDA in particular is moving and has really made great movements to move towards it becoming a data-centric organization, and that will be a theme of our panel later this morning. In line with this, we've also added some special topics on things like statistical engineering. Last year, we did a session on program evaluation, looking at not just the T&E and the evaluation of our current acquisition systems, but also how we apply those methodologies to evaluating future programs. So we had representation from the Office of Secretary of Defense Cost Assessment Program Evaluation, or CAPE, and looking at how we can apply the same kinds of methods to future systems. And then this year was the first year we did a session on applying these kinds of data-driven and analytical methods to weapon system sustainment. So in line with this expansion, we're also attracting new registrants. So I'm very pleased to welcome, we have folks, attendees here from the Joint Staff, DOT&E, CAPE, and some from our service partners on the weapon system readiness community or sustainment community. And then finally, as again in line with the evolution with this conference, we're hybrid for the first time. And that is no small feat to accomplish, to put on something as remarkable as this conference, both virtually and in person. And again, my thanks to Kelly and Rebecca and the whole DataWorks planning team for making that happen. So, as General Schwartz said yesterday, the importance of these sessions is to really focus on communication, collaboration, and then I would add one more, which is publication, right? Because that is how we exchange ideas as a community. So this year, I'm very pleased that we are partnering with the Journal of DoD Research and Engineering. That particular journal, JDR&E, is going to provide a special issue specifically focused on authors from this year's DataWorks. So there'll be about a dozen articles that the authors and presenters here will publish, and so I invite you to check out that issue when it comes out later this year. And then secondly, I think some of you know this already, but we have a website that we maintain here at IDA called testscience.org. And if you haven't checked that out yet, I encourage you to do that, again, in the vein of collaborating and the exchange of ideas. It provides many different content, including educational content. So there's tutorials, videos on how to do design of experiments or how to do regression analyses. Secondly, there's a wide variety of web-based tools and downloadable tools. We've heard about the importance of doing that. Many of you have presented tools on how we can improve and make our analyses more common and readily accessible. Those are available to you for free, of course. And then we also have sort of a virtual library of emerging research papers. And so on top of going to the website, I would ask that you would consider contributing as well. So we are really trying to build a community of practice here, an exchange of ideas to really advance the science of test and the science of data analysis here. Lastly, Kelly mentioned this yesterday, Again, in the vein of collaboration, IDA is doing a podcast, and they're very short clips to recap what we've all learned here yesterday, and I would invite you to go to that. It's actually on the webpage now. So with that, let me get off the stage, and I'm very honored and pleased to introduce our keynote speaker this morning, Mr. Nicholas Guertin, who is the Director of Operational Test and Evaluation. Mr. Guertin has spent his entire career, nearly four decades, aiding national security. He started his career as an enlisted nuclear power plant operator aboard submarines, and then later became a Navy civilian engineer and reserve engineering duty officer. His combined civilian sailor background has enabled him to become an expert in ship construction, maintenance, operations, and testing, while also developing his acumen and developing new systems while at the same time remaining grounded in what matters most to the warfighter. In the mid-1990s, Mr. Guertin was on the forefront of developing new acquisition practices and was a pioneer in open architecture designs for submarine sonar systems, which to this day are the model for getting capability to the fleet rapidly and effectively. I would say I know you are very passionate at improving acquisition practices and revolutionizing test and evaluation methodologies. I look forward to hearing your comments on that, especially for systems that are built to change and improve over time, which has really become the norm. Most recently, he performed applied research for the government and academia on software-reliant and cyber-physical systems at Carnegie Mellon University's Software Engineering Institute, and there he championed new practices for testing and developing software-reliant system architectures and test automation methods. I would invite you all to look at his publication list on this topic because it is quite extensive. Mr. Guertin was sworn in as the Director of Operational Test and Evaluation in December this past year. He is a presidential appointee confirmed by the United States Senate, and he serves as the Senior Advisor to the Secretary of Defense on operational and live-fire test and evaluation of the DoD's weapon systems. He is the 8th appointed Director of DOT&E and is responsible for independently assessing the effectiveness, lethality, suitability, and survivability of U.S. warfighting and business capabilities and reporting on those assessments to the Congress. Please join me now in welcoming Mr. Nicholas Guertin.